So hi everybody, welcome to another Feast Story Swap. We always look forward to doing this and just bringing together people from such a wide range of countries, and we really appreciate those of you who've got up at 6:30 in the morning. I think if Fran joins us, it'll be 5:30 in Oklahoma, where she'll be calling us from, and at the other end of the day, it's 10 o'clock down in Australia. So we're really grateful that you've all made this time to be with us. As I say, this is a chance for people just to share stories. Our theme this month is the idea of journeys, and we're looking forward to the fact that you are going to take us on a journey in your story. We have asked people to try and aim for 8 minutes. We won't be watching you too strictly with a stopwatch, but out of respect for the other tellers who are queued up behind you, we hope that you can stick to that kind of time frame. Indeed, one of the great skills of being a storyteller, isn't it, is to be able to tailor your telling to the space, the spot that you have. We're going over to Margaret Xavier, and she's in Bangalore, which coincidentally was where we just had our second Storytellers Conference, and it was fabulous, wasn't it? And you were there.
Yes, yes, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, we were having a good chat before other people joined us about the things that we really enjoyed. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Margaret, before you get into your story?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for giving me this platform. This is a great opportunity. I'm an education specialist. I conduct adolescent skill development program for children to face the challenges of growing up. I also conduct professional development program, a mentor for the educators who handle these children for so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
So that when they go out of the school, they should be telling, I have become a better somebody today.
Very good.
And these are all through human connection, because I do not give teaching technologies. But what I do in my sessions is all about human connection. I'm also a transformational expert coach today. I've completed my Coach to Fortune program course completely, and I'm a certified transformation expert today. So I do help people, those who need help. I'm not a counselor, not a therapist, but just a coach. That's
wonderful.
About myself.
Thank you very much, Margaret. That's great. So is the story that you're going to share a story that you tell quite often in your work?
I have used it when I've done coaching.
Okay.
But I have not yet used exactly the way I would say it today for the children, because it all depends on what kind of audience, what is the age group. Depending on that, I would take excerpts from my stories and I would tell. The name of the story is Tuk Tuk. Bengali family. A child is born. What a wonderful occasion for celebration. And this is one of the things those who have come to India would have seen. It's called Kanksh, Shank. Different words are used for this, and this can be blown. So when you blow, different kinds of sounds come from this. This is used when a very good celebration happens. It's a symbol of goodness and all of that. So now I start my story. Kring, 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 kring. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me? My little baby girl is born. She is at home now. So I wanted to invite all of you to come over to my place to visit her, bless her, cuddle her, whatever you want to do with a newborn baby. Oh no, I'm feeling a little ashamed, because no, the baby is not a good-looking baby. She's a rickety child, full of bones, no hair on her head. But how to hide all of this? One day she will grow big, and when she goes out, then everybody will ask, where did this baby come from? So me as a mother, what to do? I'm the ma of the baby. It's okay. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Yes, tomorrow at 6 o'clock, please come to my place to see my little baby. Yeah, yeah. We'll all come. Yes, they will all come. So we are all ready. Okay. This is evening, 6 o'clock. Knock, 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 knock. Good evening. So nice of you that you've come to see my baby. Please come, please come. So nice flowers you got. Please come. Eeh, what a horrible looking baby. I'm going to drop my flowers and go away. Bye. Seeing your baby from distance. Bye. How can I change my baby? The baby is born like that. I can't do it. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, so nice of you. Please come, please come. You've got sweets also. So generous of you. Yeah, my baby is lying in the crib. Please come, please come. Baby. There is no baby, a bunch of bones. Oh, dirty, filthy. Drop my flowers. Bye bye. Bye, I'm going. We're going. Bye. We'll see you again. Days passed by. In Bengali, if something is small, we generally call the word koto tuku. And whoever came see this newborn baby, all of them use this word koto tuku, koto tuku, koto tuku. Finally, the child was named Tuku. Hey Tuku! Hey Tuku! Tuku is like a lifeless baby in the crib. Doctor prescribed she has to have bottles and bottles of African honey to get her bones stronger and grow like a normal child. Unfortunately, she kept on drinking bottle of honey and her head was covered with black ants. Will anybody pick up that child? No way. Dirty, filthy, nobody likes. Nobody picks up other than the mother. Days passed by. Slowly and slowly, that child grew up like a normal child. What a blessing it was for the family that finally the child has taken a normal shape. No more to be ashamed. Yes, of course, she had one thing. Her eyes were very big, round, this big eyes, so prominent. That was the only thing, for she was bullied in school. Nobody liked her. But in the family, everybody used to call her all kinds of names because her eyes were big. But you know, Tuku started growing beautifully thanks to her parents. She was fed very well, nutritious food, and she was growing so well. Years passed by. She is about 12. Who knew that people in the family itself were eyeing her how she was growing? Unfortunately, the tragic of her life started. It is a tragedy. She was entrusted in her uncle's hand, father's brother, to teach her every day in the evening. He used to stay with them. The mother would go out socializing. Father always used to have evening shifts, so he would go up to the office in the evening and come back next day morning. And this uncle was given the responsibility to look after this girl's studies. She had a bigger brother, but he was already staying in a hostel because he has to stay in a residential school because he was considered to be a very intelligent boy. What about this Tuku? Was she intelligent? Nobody knew. Every day, this uncle of hers will take her to the bed, make her sit on her lap with the books in front of her, then drag her to the bathroom, have his joyful moments ejaculating on this just 7 or 8 year old girl. So small. What does she know? But she knew it was something very filthy. Days after days went on like this. Finally, she got so fed up of this uncle. She couldn't study well. And when the exams results are out, her parents will all shout at her. You, a dumb-headed girl. You, the one who was born ugly. You, the one, I think you are not fit for this family. Did anybody know what was going on in this girl's life every day? Finally, she got fed up. And every day when she go to take bath, she will scrub and scrub and scrub and cry and cry. Nobody to talk to. So scared to tell anybody. Will anybody believe her? She didn't know. Finally, when she got totally fed up one day, every day being treated like this, she did tell her mother. And you know what happened? The mother, she hit herself with a rolling pin. She hit her head against the wall and she told her daughter, you are the bad omen of this family. You have brought bad names to this family. Is there any way possible that your own uncle can rape you? Who will believe me? I cried and cried. My grandparents came. Everybody said that 8-year-old Tuku was responsible for all that was happening in her life. And what she was warned of, you know? Shh. Zip up. Don't tell anybody. If anybody ever comes to know about this, you are going to be killed. That was the warning which was given to her. And she was called the bad woman of the family. She tolerated this till the age of 12, keeping her mouth shut. This was her childhood story of Tuk Tuk. Phase 1, I could say so. There are a lot more, but that may be for the next time.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Wow. I'm sorry, I wouldn't have put that story as our first story if I'd known it was going to be as strong as that one. Very powerful story indeed. Thank you. And sadly, one that happens perhaps in families that you don't expect.
This is my story.
I'm not sure that makes it a nicer ending.
I would say nice because today I'm sitting in front of you as such a powerful person is because I did not become a slave to my story. I did not quit. I did not give up. That's the message.
That's a very powerful message indeed. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me. And I
Thank you.
I smile this way. I believe my smile makes my life what it is today. So happy, so peaceful, so loving.
Sure. Alla, would yours be a good contrast to that story? I'm looking to try and change the mood a little here. Okay. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and how's the storytelling scene in Moscow?
Okay, so as you know, I'm Alla and I'm from Moscow, and I've been a storyteller for about, I would say, 10 years. And I tell to children and I tell to adults and I...
Whoops, we've lost you.
Oh, I'm back, I see.
Okay.
So, as I said, I tell to different people. I tell stories to different people. and I find storytelling a fantastic multi-purpose tool.
Yeah.
And of course, it brings a lot of fun.
Sure.
So I can't say we do a lot of storytelling in Moscow. I can't say it's very popular in Moscow, but we try to do our best to make it popular here because, as I said, for me, it's a great fun.
Yeah.
And it's great fun to see these people with their shiny eyes after the sessions. So that's it.
Sure. Well, I'm hoping that I'm going to have shiny eyes when you finish. So start your story. Start your story when you're ready.
Okay. So I was prepared that it's the last story, but it's okay.
Sorry.
It's fine. Good. So my story, okay, I'm ready to start. He stopped. For the first time in his long journey, he stopped. The young knight traveled for so many days and nights. For so many days and nights, his heart led him, and his faithful horse carried him through the forests and over the mountains in a great search for his beloved bride, who had been stolen by the Dark Lord of the Dark Country. But this day he stopped. He stopped on the very edge of the Dark Country. As he remembered what people said, no one has ever returned from the Dark Country. How can you find the way back in the darkness? He was brave, but he wasn't a fool. So he sat on a stone, looking absently at his horse and a foal next to her, as his horse was a mare, and the journey was so long that his mare gave birth to a little tiny foal. So, looking absently at his horse and her foal, who were grazing, the knight suddenly saw a man. It was the old man in rags, and obviously hungry. So, the knight still had some food with him. So, they shared the meal and had a chat. And the old man said, "Your destiny brought you to the darkness. And of course you will go to the dark country, and your horse will carry you. But think of a fool. Should he go there as well? Darkness is no good for children." He was right. So the knight found a green valley full of green grass and sunshine and birds singing, and left the foal on the bank of the crystal pure river. Deep peace filled his heart, and with no doubt he entered the dark country and soon reached the castle of the Dark Lord. All of a sudden, the Dark Lord was glad to see him. "Here you are, at last. Go on, do what you have to do. Kill me. I've been waiting for so long, and I'm so tired of this darkness around me and this darkness inside me. It's so dark that death itself seems light to me now. And let me be first to greet you, then you, Dark Lord." "No," said the knight. "Yes," said the Dark Lord. "Many years ago, I also came here, a young knight in a shiny armor, and I killed the Dark Lord. And I had never found the way out. until I became inside, in my soul and in my heart, even darker than the darkness around us. So, meet your destiny. And the night killed the Dark Lord and hugged his beloved bride. But at that very moment, he understood that the Dark Lord had told him truth. There was no way out. And the young girl burst into tears because she realized this darkness was forever. But in her deep sorrow, she suddenly heard someone else sobbing next to her. It was the mayor missing her little foal. The idea came as a lightning. Let her go! And they let her go. And they followed her. And very soon, the mayor brought them back to the green valley full of sunlight and birds singing, where her foal was awaiting her on the bank of the crystal pure river. So, sometimes our destiny brings us to darkness, which happens. So, let's be sure that if we have to go into the darkness, our children, our inner child stays in light. For example, in the light of good stories. And then we'll always find the way back. And one more thing. Since the baby Jesus was born on the dark earth in the dark night, we, the humankind, are really blessed because this child always stays in light. And with his light, we can overcome any darkness. So, Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Wow, lovely, lovely story. That was a new one to me. Can you tell us a little bit, where is that story from?
It's a mixture of a myth, which I know, and it's I also worked on it somehow.
I'm sure. Very nice. Yeah. Okay, I knew the foal was going to be in there somewhere, but the ending was very strong, very strong. All right. Well, thank you very much indeed. That was certainly. Can you see my eyes are shining? Okay.
Yes, I do. Thanks a lot. I really tried to do my best, and for me, it's
again,
interesting experience. Thanks a lot.
Have you told a lot to the webcam before? Because you seem very comfortable on camera.
No, thank you very much for saying that. No, I'm not that experienced with the web cameras.
Okay.
So thanks a lot for saying.
Yeah, again, I thought that was pitched really nicely at the level, the intensity, the voice and everything worked very well for you being on camera. So thank you very much. Good. And we wish you well in trying to bring more stories to Moscow. Your fellow Muscovites don't know what they're missing. So, Hans. Hi. And where are you?
I'm in Copenhagen and it's noon.
Okay, high noon.
High noon, yeah, it's true. It's actually one, but it doesn't matter, it's noon anyway.
And presumably pretty cold there, I would think.
Oh yeah, well, about zero.
About zero, yeah. Here it was just like 30, 32 today, I think, so.
That's nice.
So please tell us a little about yourself and how's the storytelling scene in Copenhagen?
I'm sitting in our storytelling theater called Festival.
Wow, you have a storytelling theater?
Yeah, we own our own theater. I'm co-owner of this theater.
Wow.
We've been here for 11 years and we have, well, we only tell 4 stories in this theater.
Sorry, you only tell for
adults.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But
And
then we also tell for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many people does your theatre hold?
Oh, it's not a big one.
No.
100 as a max.
Oh, that's still a lot.
So we have sold out sometimes. Yeah. It's actually working quite well.
That's
but
very
it took
good.
some years. It took us like 5 or 6 years before it really started to work. And we are sponsored by the government also, getting grants and stuff.
Wow.
So we can survive. Yeah.
Sure. That's great. And the kind of stories that you put on, it's a mix, or are they mostly personal stories, or?
We call it, we have a word for it. We call it urban and urgent, which means that stories are very much about modern stories. So we say, well, it's okay to tell an old story, a myth, but you must know why you tell it.
Yes.
It's not a museum. It must have some kind of, it must be interesting for people to listen to.
Sure.
For modern people to listen to. And then it's okay. But if you just tell a story because you think it's interesting as a historical relic or something like that, we are not so interested. No, so it's a lot of new stories, lots of old stories, but it all has this, the point is it has to have a message. It has to have a relevance to the people.
Very good.
Yes. Yeah.
And
then lots of foolish things like story fights and stuff like that. So it's also kind of an entertaining thing. It's not always so serious.
Sure. Good. Okay, that sounds really interesting. And the age group of most of your audience?
Well, they would be like, we did a huge effort to get the young ones coming. So they would be all ages, but I think we have lots of students, so it would be like 25, 28, 30. And then there is a gap. It's all the parents, they're very busy. And then there are all the grandparents coming. Yeah. So it's very mixed.
Good.
And then we also do lots for children. I do a lot of things for children, and my main thing is to make stories with children. So it's a dialogue thing, and we publish the books. So I do a huge effort to make the story, and then also to have them understand that when a story is finished, you have to work on it to make it a good story. You have to change it. So we do a lot to kind of make it better. So we publish books every year in schools, and they are used for teaching also. So we try to develop storytelling in that way to make kids aware of the fact that they can work with fiction, do it in a dialogue with each other. Wow. So that's what I'm doing mostly when I do things with kids. And that has developed into the song is a basis for the story is a basis for a song. So we make lots of children's songs based on children's stories. So we have made a band actually.
Okay. Well, we look forward to hearing your story. What have you got for us?
Yeah, that's a story I made with a class of 5th graders. And of course it's a story about a werewolf. There was a werewolf once living on the North Pole, which is a very nice place for a werewolf to live. It wants to be a werewolf all the time. It's night all the time. And but it got sick and tired of being a werewolf, so it decided to go south. Well, that's all you can do when you're on the North Pole, so it went south. And it walked all the way, and it was a long way. But along the way, it met a cat. There was a cat sitting on the roadside, and the cat got very afraid of the werewolf, so it bit the werewolf in the foot. And now happened the first magical thing in the story. The werewolf changed into a cat. Well, the werewolf thought that's a beginning. So it continued its journey, walking all the way, and eventually came to a big city. It went into the city, there was houses along the road, and it saw enjoyed to be in the big city, but all of a sudden it found a door open. And it thought, well, what's in the houses? So it went inside, and the first sight was the sight of a fat woman. She was standing by the table, and it looked up, and it saw these huge kind of round things, and was a little bit afraid, but she turned around and said, "Whoa, a cat! Fantastic, a cat!" And she took it up. and start to touch it. And well, the cat liked it. The cat, who was a werewolf, actually liked to be touched by the woman. And she took it into the living room and put it on the floor. And there was a monster. And the monster came closer and closer to the cat, gulping, saying strange words, and it escaped and hid itself onto the sofa. Now, the cat had never seen a thing like that. It was a baby. Mm. So the cat was living under the couch, and the baby was living in the room, trying to touch the cat, but the cat was afraid. But after a while, the cat got used to the baby, and it realized it was not actually a monster. It was quite nice. And it crawled out from under the sofa, and they had a nice time until the day when the baby saw the tail of the cat and thought, wonder how it tastes, and bit the cat in the tail. And now happened the second magical thing in the story. The cat turned into a baby. And in that way, the werewolf became a human being if a baby is a human being. Now that's the end of the story.
And what is the message of that story?
I don't think you should look for deep messages. We just had a great time making the story.
I bet you did.
The mother and the baby, and I think the whole thing came from a baby not really being a human being. Mm. And maybe some of the kids had younger siblings or something like that, and they thought, wow, what a hassle with these little babies who are not really human beings. So this story came up.
Yes.
And in that way, you might say, no, you cannot always find a message in the stories, but we are working on it. And when we work with them, we get nice little funny stories just for the fun, and sometimes stories more doing with more serious matters like pollution, for instance. Kids are very... So yeah, that was a small story, just on the easy end. Now we have had two kind of serious stories. I thought we might have some just for the fun.
Sure, yes, and but somehow, and it would be a story that would certainly lend itself to a sequel. Who's going to bite the baby next? And where do we go with that?
Kind of story. It could have developed into a long story.
Yes,
and changing all the things.
Yeah. So I think for me that the moral is just be careful who you bite. That's for sure. Thank you very much. Well, I'm excited. I'd love to one day get to see your theatre. I think probably if you look around all the people on your screens, you will see a lot of green eyes. I'm looking very carefully. Can I see? Definitely, I think Mayher's eyes are looking very green at the moment. With jealousy, if we can, and I know Sheila's definitely. Yes, wouldn't we love to have our own space?
You're all welcome to come and visit us.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll try and explore that, shan't we, Sheila, with Feast? That will be wonderful. Hope.
Hope, yes, okay.
Hope. You're waiting patiently here.
Do is check that you can hear me because this is a new microphone.
No, you're sounding very sweet and dulcet, no problem.
Just for you, Roger and Sheila.
Hope runs the Virtual Storytelling Guild, and I've had the pleasure of telling stories on that. Why don't you just give a plug for that, because I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people to share stories and to connect with people on the other side of the pond.
Yes, indeed, Roger. And I want to thank you and Feast for this marvelous opportunity, even though it is very early in the morning for me. I'm in Maine, USA, and I run the Worldwide Virtual Storytelling Guild, which brings together storytellers from all around the world. We meet twice a month, once looking one direction and once looking the other direction. And we have stories. Roger's told a story with tangrams or with puppets, for example. And we have many, many, many different types of stories, and over 200 storytellers who check in periodically. Other than that, I also am the president of the board of directors of the regional storytelling organization in the northeastern U.S., I tell stories any place I can because stories keep me alive.
Sure.
The story I'm bringing you today. Yes, Roger?
No, carry on. Sorry. Just carry on. You're doing fine.
The story I'm bringing you today is an adaptation of a story, an Inuit story from southeastern Alaska in the US. And it's a story that I have added some American Sign Language to for the beauty of the movements. And I hope that you enjoy it, and I thank the Inuit and Tlingit people for their story. This story is called The Man Who Entertained the Bears. The old man was alone. His wife had died. His friends had died. His children had grown up and gone away. He was alone, so alone. Perhaps I should die too, he thought. He took a walk down by the Salmon Creek. Thinking deeply. As he walked, he crossed the path that the bears, the grizzly bears, had made through the woods. And he had a sudden thought. There, he lay down right across the path, knowing the bears would come. The bears would come and they would eat him. And he thought, better that they eat me, and my flesh gives them strength to survive the winter. At least I'm some use to some living creature. And he lay there and he waited. And he waited. And he waited. Suddenly, there in the bushes, there was a sound of a branch breaking, a snap. And there was rustling in the bushes. The bears were coming. All of a sudden, the old man could imagine the sound of his own bones breaking under the jaws of the bear. And he could imagine the flesh being torn from his body. And he leapt to his feet. And as the bears stepped through the bushes onto the path, he found himself face to face with an old silvertip. That's a bear so old, so great, that the tips of his fur had all turned white. The bear and the old man stared at each other. The old man struggled for what to say. I'm here to invite you to come and eat with me tomorrow. I'll make a feast. Of course, if you want to kill me, that is as it must be, for I am old and I am alone. And my wife has died, and my friends have died, and my children, they've all grown and gone. I'm alone. The bear and the old man stared at each other for a moment or two, and then the bear turned and went back into the woods, followed by all the rest of the bears that had all come together. The man walked home thinking, I just invited bears to eat with me tomorrow? On the way home, he invited his neighbors, and they opened up their doors, and they said they'd love to come, but then he mentioned about the bears coming too. And they all closed their doors. He went home and he put together the bears' favorite foods, salmon and herring roe and dried blueberries and, cranberries preserved in grease, all the bears' favorite foods. He hardly slept that night. The next morning, he looked out his door. Good, no bears, still time. And he went and he painted his face and his chest with brightly colored paint to celebrate and to welcome his dinner with the bears. The bears came. There they came from the creek. The old man opened up the door and guided the Silvertip to the place of honor, right in the middle of the home. He handed the Silvertip the salmon, and the Silvertip ate some and passed it along. The same with the cranberries and the blueberries and that delicious herring roe. They passed the platters around and they all ate till they were full. And then the Silvertip stood up. And the Silvertip stood up and began to gesture and mutter. And then took a step towards the old man. And with his huge paw, reached out to the old man, turned the paw so that the back was towards the old man, touched the old man on the face, and then took the back of his own paw and touched his own face. The Silvertip turned and left, and all of the other bears followed. The next morning, the old man looked out, and what he saw when he opened his door was there was the smallest of the bears that had come to eat. And this small bear looked up at him and in his own language said, "I used to be human. I'm a bear now, but I used to be human." So I can still remember some of the language. The Silvertip asked me to come to tell you what he meant to say to you last night after we ate. He said, "He is old. He is alone. His mate has died. All of his cubs have grown and gone. All the bears that he's known for so many years, many of them have died or gone as well, and he is alone. He is alone. And he asks that you please, when you mourn all those you have lost, think of the old Silvertip bear." Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing that story with us. Wow. And I think very special. For me, because obviously I use sign myself, okay, with some stories, and just the way that it just really connected with the spirit of the story. I thought that was just beautiful. Very, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a new sign for the like the salmon. So thank you. Do you use sign in
Thank you very much, Roger, and thank you all of you.
Beautiful story. Does anybody else use sign language in your telling? I'm looking around here trying to see here. I don't see anybody else kind of waving a hand. It's very powerful, and it just, as you saw, it can just add this kind of visual element to your telling, apart from again, the more that we introduce kind of elements of accessibility into our telling, the more that people are exposed to sign language. I think that, you know, the more people are going to be comfortable when they interact with the deaf person who is signing as well. So thanks very much, Hope. That was a very special story for us. Zanette, I think. And, you know, I want to get to you before it's midnight and you turn into a pumpkin or something.
Okay. Well, this story is called The Camel Driver. A camel driver was walking along, leading his camels just past an orchard on the edge of the desert, when he stopped to rest beside an orchard. Over the orchard was hanging a tree with a delicious, ripe, juicy, succulent peach just hanging from the tree. It was oozing with nectar. The camel driver looked over and he saw the orchard owner. He said, "Some people are lucky. Look at him." His heart was gripped with envy as he thought about it, and he thought, he gets to stay in his own house. He gets to wake up with his wife and see his family and look at his land every day. The orchard owner looked over at the camel driver, and his heart was gripped with envy, and he said, "Some people are lucky. Look at him, he gets to travel. What an adventurous, carefree life that man must have." At that time, the camel was looking at the peach, and it began to shake, and as the peach dropped, the camel opened his mouth and gulped the peach. The orchard owner was filled with rage. He picked up a stone and he threw it at the camel. It hit the camel and the camel fell dead. The camel driver saw his best camel dead, and he was filled with rage, and he picked up a stone and he threw it at the orchard owner. The orchard owner tried to dodge, but he wasn't quick enough. It hit him in the head and he fell down dead. Now, a dead camel is one thing, but a dead person is quite another. The camel driver was so fearful, he looked around and tried to see that nobody had seen him as he wanted to slip away, but he had been seen. The orchard owner's sons came over. They grabbed him and they said, "Murderer, murderer, you killed our father. We are taking you to the judge." And they grabbed him and they pulled him into town, either side. As they walked through the villagers came out. "What's happening? What's happening? What's going on?" "This man killed our father. We're taking him to the judge. He's to be life for a life. He's a murderer." When they got there, the judge said, What is happening here?" The orchard owner's son said, "This man, he killed our father. We want him executed. We never again will we share with our father pomegranate wine or talk with him. He is gone. We want his life." "Wait," said the judge, and he turned to the camel driver. "My friend, these men say that you killed their father. Tell me your story." Oh, "I did kill him, but I didn't mean to. He killed my camel and I just reacted and I picked up a stone and I threw it. It killed him. But look, I have blood money. I can pay for their father. It was an accident." "Wait," said the judge. He turned to the camel driver's son. to the orchard owner's sons. This man had no intention to kill your father. He has blood money. Will you accept? Blood money? We do not want blood money. We want his life. Life for a life. Wait, said the judge, and he turned to the camel driver. I'm sorry, but these men, they say you killed their father and they want your life. Executioner. The executioner came out. He rolled down the sheepskin rug and he said, say your prayers and prepare to die. The camel driver, he knelt down and he said his prayers. And then he said, wait, am I not a condemned man? Yes, you are, said the judge. Does a condemned man not have a last wish? Yes, he does. Then I wish to go home. I wish to go home for 3 days and 3 nights, and then I promise I will come back. That is very unorthodox. I've never heard of a condemned man wishing to go home before. No, you cannot go home. How do I know you will come back? But if one of these good people here will take your place for 3 days and 3 nights, then you can come. Then you can go. Ask them. So the camel driver said, good people, I promise I will come back in 3 days if you will just, one of you, just take my place so I can say goodbye to my family and let them know what has happened. Please. The crowd scoffed. You come here, a stranger? We don't know you. You kill one of ours and then you want us to take your place? You're joking. Prepare to die. Accept your fate. But there was one voice up the back. I'll take his place. And an old man started to walk through. I'll take his place. The crowd said, old man, stop. You don't know this fellow. You don't owe him anything. Shh, be quiet. Stay still. I'll take his place. And he came forward. The judge said, old man, do you realise you are saying that you will go in the dungeon for 3 days? If this man does not return, you will take his place and die. I know, I will take his place. So they gave the camel driver 1 camel. Off he went as quick as anything. They bound the old man's hands and took him down to the dungeon. 1 day passed, 2 days passed, 3 days, no sight of the camel driver. They brought him up, the old man up. Oh, old man, we are sorry, you put your faith in the wrong person. They rolled out the sheepskin rug. Kneel, make peace with your maker, pray to God and prepare to die. The old man, he prayed to God and he came to realize his life was everything. And he realized his life was nothing. And he was at peace. He was at peace with himself. He was at peace with God. And he was at peace with the world. He turned to the executioner and said, strike hard and firm. I want to die quickly. So as the executioner raised his blade, someone from the crowd said, stop, wait, someone's coming. And along came, they all watched the cloud of dust as the camel driver rode in. He hopped off his camel and he said, oh, I am sorry, old man, to cause you any distress, but I am here now. And he knelt down and he bowed his head. But the judge said, wait, wait, wait. What has happened here? Where have you been, camel driver? And why have you come back now? Oh, I wanted to go home. I wanted to tell my family what has happened to me so they wouldn't be distressed. And then I got home and I came as soon as I can back here. I am ready now. I am prepared to die. And he knelt down. Wait, said the judge. Old man, why did you offer to take his place? I was brought up to believe that a man's word is his honour. I chose to believe when he said he would come back. Even if he hadn't come back, I would not want to live in a world where a man's word was not his honour. Impressive, said the judge. Well, I was brought up to believe that their justice needs compassion and empathy. So today, no heads were rolled. And he turned to the orchard owner's sons. You will accept this man's blood money, will you not? Yes, 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 they said. Right, said the judge. Let's come. We'll eat, we'll drink, we'll talk about life. And that is the end of my story.
Thank you very much indeed. I could think of quite a number of politicians that I think you ought to share that story with. The idea that a man's word is his bond. I tell the story of Pythias and Damon, which has a similar setup of a friend saying that he's prepared to stand in for the accused while his friend goes off to make his peace with his family. So thank you. And is that story, where did you get that from?
I wanted to say that. There's a storyteller I so admire, and her name is Jan Blake, and I heard her tell
okay.
it.
Yeah.
And she called it a story. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think it's important that we continue to share our sources or tellers that we've heard the story from, so we can kind of give credit where it's due and keep that kind of going around. So thank you very much. Good.
I haven't, thinking that I wasn't going to tell, I haven't practiced it in a few days.
Oh, a few days, that's okay, you know. I mean, a few years, okay, we accept there's a problem. That's okay. So remind me where you are again, Kiera?
So I am in the U.S., in the state of North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay. And give me a city that will help me place that on the map. North Carolina, give me a city.
The East Coast.
Yes, East Coast, okay. And you are working as a storyteller, or?
I am part of the Asheville Storytelling Circle. I was a librarian in a school for many years and did storytelling there, and I'm starting to tell stories more for adults. Wouldn't say I'm a professional because I always do it for free. But I aspire to do more work and do some workshops for adults.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. So what is the story that you had been thinking of, but which you haven't had a chance to prepare, which you would have prepared if you could have prepared? But
I'll just go for it.
Go for it.
I have told this story before. I've told it a couple of times in performance, but it's been more than 8 minutes. So that's the preparing part where you get into the 8-minute mark.
Okay.
I'll just go for it. It's a personal story, which I'm curious how it plays with an international audience. And it's called I Like Cheese.
I do too. Okay, go.
I like cheese. I've recently discovered pimento cheese because I moved south, and I discover new cheeses all the time. But my love affair with cheese began when I was a little kid in rural Vermont, and we got the government cheese delivered free to our house from the WIC program. My New York Jewish mother eloped on the back of a motorcycle with my Mississippi River Baptist father when they were both in college, and they decided that they would homestead in Vermont. Broke, romantic, and clueless with 2 young children, neither of them had ever farmed before. My mother from the city had never even had a houseplant. But they met some like-minded friends who were hyper-intellectual and got some books and made a go at it. I remember when they bought this they rented this old house, and the house was surrounded by the landlord's cow pastures. And I heard the mooing in the mornings and the cow patties. There was a wood stove, and my father would load my sister and I into the old manure spreader, and we would scan the road for dead trees that were cut and loaded in the back with us. The kitchen was the center of the action. It was often cold and smoky, but exciting. We kept bees, and I remember my father renting a big honey extractor, this enormous silver thing, and he brought in the honeycombs to the kitchen, and he took off his beekeeping uniforms, filling the kitchen with stray bees. I remember the garden with the overabundance of onions, and my mother cutting the onions and crying and frying the onions and crying, transported back to her grandmother's kitchen above their New York City store, where the smell of the frying onions overpowered the smell of the fancy cosmetics. Food has that power to transport you and to bring you back home, whether you like it or not. We had that enormous garden, and we had chickens and ducks, which between weasel raids gave us eggs, and we had sheep, so we had meat. I remember when I was about 4, I learned firsthand the literal meaning of the expression, running like a chicken with its head cut off. That may have fueled my later decades of vegetarianism, but I could never be a vegan, though, because cheese. I love cheese. And I know that not all cheese is strictly vegetarian, but I have always justified eating it because it's cheese. My mother didn't really know how to cook, but she learned how to bake bread. And I remember that smell, warm and yeasty, filling the kitchen. Bread and honey, bread and butter, bread and cheese. And although that house was cold, the growing season was short. And I remember when the well ran dry and the food ran out, that was still the place where I learned to be a foodie and love really good food. My sister and I would get super excited when the WIC delivery person came, the Women, Infants, and Children's Food Program. Winter, mud season, summer, fall, every month that delivery person would come, and there'd be a box, and inside there would be cereal, orange juice, peanut butter, and my beloved government cheese, which in Vermont in those days was a 2-pound block of cheddar. Well, I remember the day when my little sister ran out to greet the WIC delivery person, and she said with such great excitement, "I'm a big girl. I am 5 years old today." My mother ran up behind her and smiled politely and rolled her eyes. Yes, 5 years old. The cutoff for the food delivery program. This would be our last box of food from WIC. Shortly after that, my parents waved the white flag and they moved us to town. There were sidewalks. There was public school. And we could ride our bikes to the grocery store, and down the street from our house, there was a Cabot cheddar cheese plant. Sometimes the air just smelled like cheese. In town, there was a store, a food co-op. Now, my parents had actually belonged to this food co-op at one time, and they'd get bulk maple syrup and Whole Foods from them. And it was just a group of families, but now it was in town with a storefront, and it had a deli counter. And sometimes, if you went there at the right time, they had free samples of cheese. I tasted cheese from around the world. There was this one I remember in particular because it was different for me, and it was this caramel colored and sweet and squeaky. It tasted like cheese made of condensed milk. I think it's called something like toast, but I don't know. But it was delicious in my mouth. Squeak. Well, I grew up. I went to high school where I excelled, and I got an academic scholarship to go to college. And I left home, vowing never to go back again. I was done with all things Vermont. One day I was sitting in the dining hall at the international table with all of my new international friends from around the world, and my high school guidance counselor walked in. I was horrified. And he was thrilled, and he came to me and he said, "Kiera, so good to see you. I'm at a conference, so tell me, what about your high school prepared you to do so well here in college?" "Absolutely nothing," I said. "My high school was terrible. This success is all me." Well, I used my academic scholarship and I did my junior year abroad in France, the land of cheese. There, I even did a cheese tour of the Loire Valley with my student group. And I got to have cheese of all over the different regions of France. There was cheese every color of the rainbow. And the cheese was made from cow's milk, goat's milk, or sheep's milk, or any animal you could possibly milk. And it had that cheesy tang. And it was all delicious. There was runny cheese called concoyote that you could eat hot or cold. There was brie and camembert, gruyere, all the different Franche-Comté, the region that I was staying in, all delicious. I traveled in Europe that year, and I got to have fondue in Switzerland, and Gouda and Edam in Holland. And about 10 months into the trip, I had been away from home for a long time, and I was traveling in Italy. I went to Rome and Firenze. And I didn't want to be hassled as a dumb American, and so I wore French clothes and French shoes, and I spoke only French. And if people came to me, I would say, "Je suis française. Oui, voilà mes chaussures. Je ne suis pas une de ces Américaines imbéciles. Non, pas du tout. Je suis française." In Florence, I had run out of money, and so I was saving my food money to have one delicious, authentic meal a day. And I had gone to see all of the beautiful works of art and amazing historical architecture. And I'd heard about this bridge over the River Arno that had been there for centuries, and it was lined with shops all along the bridge, some of them open since the Middle Ages. And so I came with my backpack, and I saw a market selling, I'm sure you know, cheese. I was thrilled. I came to the market, and now I don't speak Italian, and I saw all of the cheeses, all of these ones I'd sampled at the co-op. I saw mozzarella, I saw Roquefort, I saw all kinds, Parmesan, Asiago, Pecorino Romano. And I wanted a cheese that I'd never tried before. And so I tried out my Italian. I asked for special cheese. Formaggio speciale, I said. And I handed them my money. And they looked around. And handed me off a slice of hard cheese. I sat expectantly on a bench in the shade, and I took this spoon out that I kept in my backpack, and I cut myself off a hunk of cheese. I sniffed it. Wait. Cheddar? Sharp cheddar cheese? No! I was angry. I was embarrassed. I had just spent my entire food budget for the day on the Wick government cheese that I used to get for free. I sat there on that bench in the shade for a while, but I was hungry. So I got over myself, and I took out the cheese and I cut off another hunk. And this time it tasted of home, and it was truly delicious. No matter where you go, there you are. Thank you.
Nice, 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 nice. You made me feel so hungry. I want to go and have put some cheese on a biscuit. I love the first part. Have you written your autobiography? I think you absolutely should, because if ever you go on a book tour and you start speaking about what's in your book, and if you write this story, I mean, you'd be instant seller, absolutely. Really captivating, and I think looking around, most people will be drooling at the mouth now if you're a cheese lover. Yes, absolutely. And just that whole the capturing the life on the farm, and it just seemed to be so full of sound and texture and smell. It was just so vivid. That really is beautiful. And have you thought about writing it down?
I have. Well, I've written it out.
Okay.
And I'm wondering how to do that.
Find yourself a buddy and get working with them on it.
Well, thank you.
Okay, and bounce it around. Absolutely. I just think it's very.
I appreciate this opportunity to share. Thank you.
Good. Absolutely. And if there's a romance in there, later on, we didn't get to that in your story, Kiera, but I thought this has got Hallmark movie all over it, that kind of nostalgic looking back at, America of yesteryear, and so vividly described. And the program that you mentioned, the WIC program, is it?
Yes.
Does that still continue, or is that one of the things that you're
They no longer deliver boxes of food, but if you go into the grocery store in the U.S., you will see signs on the cheddar cheese, the same cheddar cheese actually, which I now pay a lot of money for at Walmart, is eligible for WIC program points. So you go to the grocery store and you can give, turn in your cards for WIC food.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think on that note, probably we have come to the end of this session. Okay. I really enjoyed just the sheer diversity of journeys and how people have taken and interpreted that. Only 2 days ago, I have a program that I do at the Jacob Ballas Children's Garden, which is part of the Botanic Gardens here in Singapore. And the story that I was sharing was actually this one. It's called Circle, and it's by an Australian artist. You probably know her, Jeannie Baker. And it tells the story of the migration of, this is the godwit, which is a relatively small bird that maybe, if you like, starts off in Australia and migrates all the way up via the wetlands in China, and then heads up to Alaska from Australia, and then mates there, breeds, and then after they've raised their chicks, they fly non-stop, can you get this, 7,500 miles all the way back direct from Alaska either to New Zealand or to Australia, which is quite an extraordinary journey. And now they've managed, the technology is such that they actually can put a tracker on these birds. I mean, it's light enough that you can imagine by the time the birds arrive at their destination, when they get back to New Zealand or Australia, they have lost so much weight in the process. So whatever this tracker is, needs to be very small and very light. But how the birds manage to navigate and do that kind of journey just seems to be extraordinary. And so it was a real pleasure. And the illustration, Jeannie Baker is just a wonderful artist, and it's one I would certainly recommend to you if you're interested in the idea of journeys. Here for us, it's relevant because we are on the flyway. We have a beautiful wetlands here. It's a mangrove, and it's an area that is very popular with the migrating birds, particularly on they're migrating south from Central Asia on their way to the Southern Hemisphere. So probably in the past 2 months, it was in October, November, it was very, very busy. And so we are thinking about perhaps doing a program celebrating the flyway and the countries that the birds stop off on their amazing journey. And if there was something that you would really like us to conduct a webinar on, which is usually like a 90-minute, we try and make it as interactive as we can, then please do drop us an email, because we'd love to have a suggestion. Or if you know of anybody who you think would be a good person for us to tap because of their experience as a storyteller, or because they work with a particular aspect of storytelling, and whether that's puppets or kamishibai, or because they like to work with a specific age group or a particular community, or with in terms of mental health or gender issues or whatever it is, then please, again, we would love to know that, because we are looking to try and get as diverse a program as possible to offer to you. So thank you very much for being with us this evening. It's been a real pleasure. And to all of our tellers, thank you so much. And for all of our listeners, thank you for listening so well. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you, all the tellers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.